on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to Chris Carlin on 98.7 ESPN.
You're damn right you are. 800-919-3776. Carlin, with you. Lots of Yankee talk, as you would expect. Phone lines are loaded. John Flaherty, Yes Network, later in the hour to tell us exactly what's wrong and, more specifically, why it's gone wrong and how fixable is it. 800-919-3776. Phones. Sweet Chuck in Ramsey. Sweet Chuck, what up, baby?
Hey, Chris, what's going on? Nice to be on your show.
Good to have you, dude.
Quickly, I'm great. But quickly, the Yankees, I'm a huge Yankee fan. Disappointing, sloppy, can't hit. But I still have a bet with my father that I'd say the next 30 games, the Yankees go 20-10, and they'll be 5 games over 500. They'll figure it out. But my real thing that I wanted to talk about is just to put into this, Nick Nets situation that everybody in the tri-state's talking about. As far as, for me, I didn't want Kyrie or Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's too fragile. They both have, issues with media, taking off days. I would hate to be a Knicks fan and have them on my team. I'm really excited.
I mean, can we stop? Can we stop?
Really
Chuck, I mean, come on. Chuck, to say that you don't want Kevin Durant on your team, come on.
No,
Let's not turn this into something it's not.
When's the last time he's played a full year?
Yeah, I understand that. But he's still, when he's on the court, the second best player in the league. Second best player in the league. So a couple of years ago, he blew out that Achilles in the finals. I look at Kevin Durant, and I'll take him on my team anytime. Okay? I was personally against the idea of having Harden here as well, and the three of them. But if you're a Knicks fan, don't sit there and sell me about how you're glad you don't have Kevin Durant.
I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent.
Chuck, you and I both know the Nets are going further than the Knicks this year. Celebrate what is great about your team. That's what's important right now. It doesn't have to be about what the Nets don't have. We all know that if two of those three guys is on the floor, it's not even close as to who's going further, and they're probably still going further if they only have one.
So you're telling me Nets fans wouldn't rather have a Julius Randle instead of one of the Hardens or the Durants, where this guy plays every day and plays his heart out and should be a top 5?
No, you know why? Because the Net fans right now are worried about the finals. Thanks for the call. They're not thinking about anything else than the Eastern Conference Finals at worst. Because they're under the assumption right now that you're going to have at the very least, you're going to have a chance to get to the NBA Finals, and certainly expect to win the Eastern Conference. So I'm not getting nuts about that. But if you're a Knicks fan, don't revel in what's going wrong with the Nets, and don't tell me you wouldn't want Kevin Durant. It's absurd. Spike in St. Pete is next. Spike, what's going on?
Hello, my friend. It's Generalissimo Rommel, who ran the North Africa campaign for Germany during World War II, was 2 days late and had a slow start. He had more scrutiny than the Yankees have. I mean, it's 15 games. I know they look like turd. They played like turd. They're not fielding. They're not getting the pitching. But it's 15 games. I mean, I understand the expectations, Chris, but you got to breathe a little bit. You don't have to do anything, but I understand, but let's wait for 50 games and see where it's at. I'm not happy with the way they're playing. Hugest disappointment unequivocally so far this year. But
look, they've been terrible, Spike. But the problem is that as much as you say it's 15 games, I look at issues that I don't necessarily think are fixable right away. I think the offense is fixable right away. but I'm not convinced that the starting pitching is fixable right away. And I'm certainly not convinced that the defense is fixable right away.
Yeah, I'll leave you with this. I have a feeling, I hope I'm wrong, because it's good for business, for everybody. They may be constructed incorrectly as the game changed basically in the last 3 or 4 years. And I believe, if I'm right, it started out in Tampa. And you're right, if you extract the Yankees record, then Tampa's also ran. But they just have their number. You know, what was it? You know this stuff. 88, 11-1. The Mets over the Dodgers.
Yeah, no, the Mets owned the Dodgers in 1988, and thanks to the call. And obviously, they lost in the postseason to a pitcher that got ridiculously hot and a hitter that got ridiculously hot in Gibson. That's all fine. The Rays did it in the postseason too. So right now, the Rays feel no pain when they play the Yankees. No pain whatsoever. It's like batting practice. You know, Brian Cashman said earlier, right now we're a team that a lot of teams want to play. Yeah, especially the Rays, because they're not beating anybody else. 98.7 ESPN presents Clubhouse Confidential, Thursday, May 6th. Now, we're giving 98.7 ESPN listeners an inside look at the game with some of the best minds in baseball, featuring Alex Rodriguez, Matt Vasgersian, and Buster Olney, all hosted by Don LaGreca. It's an exclusive VIP Zoom party talking all things New York baseball, and we'll give away some great prizes. To score your VIP access, be the first caller right now. Right now, 888-987-ESPN. 888-987-3776. First caller, Clubhouse Confidential, presented by PC Richard & Son at 98.7 ESPN. 800-919-3776. Danny's in Long Island. Hello, Danny. How are you, brother?
I'm a little perplexed by the last caller's Erwin Rommel analogy. That kind of lost me on that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The first ever Erwin Rommel analogy in the history of New York sports radio. We'll leave it there. Listen, the Yankees just announced that Jay Bruce Day will be Sunday. They'll raise the jersey to the rafters, and they're going to give a couple of jet skis. And we're going to have a short video montage of all those great Yankee moments that Jay had, all two of them.
I'll never forget when I was working at SNY, somebody as a joke put together a Gary Matthews Jr. Mets montage with Nobody Does It Better in the background.
Oh, God. There's actually a discussion on one of the radio shows today. It might have been on the mothership, whether Jay Bruce should be considered for the Hall of Fame. I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." But anyway, listen,
yeah, no, that's not even. Not even. Listen, Jay Bruce had a nice career.
There's an old saying: "You're never as bad as you look, and never as good as you look." And that's the truth with the Mets and the Yankees. The Mets are not playing great, but they're playing a bad team. The Yankees are not that bad. They're just playing lousy. That could all change. There was an exchange with Paul O'Neill last week. It might have been the first game of the series, where their catcher who might as well go up to the plate with a blindfold, Gary Sanchez, swung at an 0-2 pitch like he was chopping down a tree. And Paul O'Neill laughed and we said, that's not a 2-strike swing. We're down 3 runs here. You're leading off an inning. You got to put the ball in play. And that moment passed. And then the next inning, Wendell for Tampa Bay gets up, and an 0-2 pitch. In my head, I saw Tony Gwynn or Rod Carew. He took an outside pitch and flicked it into short left center field.
Yeah.
Monica Seles couldn't have done it better with a tennis racket. It was just a beautiful 2-strike hit, and that's the way you do it. And the Yankees don't have anyone who's taking that approach at the plate.
Well, look at it this way.
You need to have.
Look at it this way. If the Rays are so great at analytics and all that stuff, like that's their bread and butter, why is it that they're able to do all that and they don't have 4 guys that hit 40 home runs each? They have players like Wendell who just absolutely destroyed the Yankees this weekend. They have other guys who they rely on who do put the ball in play, who do, and this is not about the old small ball or any of that crap, but you watch Urshela do it yesterday. You watch LeMahieu do it yesterday, and you understand That's actually supposed to be a big part of it. Like, people can downplay batting average these days all you want and focus on OPS. That's fine, okay? I'd rather have my guy just be a good hitter.
And the other half of it is two other points I'd like to make. One is that they're playing lousy defense, and you can't get away from that. I don't need any stats to show me that interior defense up the middle is so important. We all know it is. Doesn't show up in the box score, and it should. But and the Yankees just making too many errors.
Well, and Aaron Hicks, who's supposed to be all defense, kicking it around twice yesterday in the same inning.
Aaron Hicks must have a laptop or pictures of the manager, because there's no way he should still be in the lineup. He's completely lost. They should give him another week to consider.
Either that or he keeps winning golf bets against him. That's the only thing I can figure, you know.
And my day was ruined just today going to a quick flip to our favorite football team. My day was ruined when I saw Alejandro Villanueva, our left tackle, United States Army hero, Silver Star winner, great guy, is meeting with the Ravens. Oh my God,
that would suck.
That would totally. That man will be legendary in Heinz Field because of his character and what he stood for. Literally, what he.
Danny? Did you know that at West Point,
the Super Bowl?
Danny, did you know that at West Point he was a wide receiver? He was a wide receiver at West Point. He's 6'8". Thanks for the call, Danny. He's 6'8", Villanueva, and he put on all that weight to play tackle. He was a wide receiver at West Point, and the only pass they ever threw to him was a fade in the corner, and he caught it every time. 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. So which of these can be fixed quickly? One of them, believe it or not, for the Yankees actually can be fixed pretty quickly.
It's Carlin.
He's no Michael K.
On 98.7 ESPN.
When the time comes,
you're down.
A guy for you. At 2 by London, the engagement shop at London Jewelers, they have a family. In its 4th generation, the team at 2 by London has the experience and knowledge to help you select or design the perfect engagement ring to fit any budget. They'll work with you every step of the way and provide a truly customized
stream, guys. What's going on? Let's see here.
At 2bylondon.com or visit 2bylondon today and mention ESPN at the Americana Manhasset, East Hampton, and Westfield World Trade Center.
Hello. What's up, brother?
At Eddie Sings tasted Popeye's new Cajun Flanders.
Regular Danny refers to regular Spike as last caller. Shots fired. Caller on caller crime. People have been smoking before calling Carlin. I don't think it's been that bad. Hot Pocket Pete. Thanks for the stream. Brother, I wish I had a Hot Pocket right now. Here's the only problem with Hot Pockets. Hot take on Hot Pockets. Ready? Here you go. They're either just scalding or they're ice cold. There is no in between with a Hot Pocket when you take it out of the microwave. That to me is just the worst part about the Hot Pocket. It would be such an enjoyable treat, but I'm not going to put a Hot Pocket in the regular oven and let that go for 20 minutes or whatever it's going to take to do it right. It's a Hot Pocket. It's supposed to be food on the go. This is my point. How many times, you're being fair, when you have the Hot Pocket, even if you give it a minute, who says this? Mike Monifus. You got to give it a minute, man. Of course I give it a minute. How many times, if you're being honest with yourself, have you burned the roof of your mouth on a Hot Pocket? Thousands. It's a test of manhood, eating with that scalding cheese. Another hot take. There may not be better things in this world than burnt cheese. Burnt cheese. Awesome. True or false? Thank you.
given back. Find a collection site near you at DEATakeback.com. That's DEATakeback.com.
Experience the difference in home comfort with Edison Heating and Cooling, New Jersey's air conditioning experts. Visit EdisonHVAC.com. That's EdisonHVAC.com.
Gordon.
Page 11 in the presentation, you'll see that
Anita saying they should tank. I would disagree with Anita on that for the 7th seed. Well, I like my pizza burnt. No, I'm talking about like, well, for instance, Mills. I like my pizza well done. That's one. But number two, let's say some of that cheese gets onto the crust. That burnt cheese on the crust. That's the real deal. That's A to B right there. Yes, he is. I heard that
maybe not that
Richard's Spike tweeted me that Richard's mother passed away.
Yeah, he just told me that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Up to 50% less than.
I felt bad about that because I was like, oh, damn.
Contract.
No, but we were a little worried about him.
We're worried about him.
Yeah.
I told him, like, we miss you, Richard. We're really happy about that.
No contract, no compromise.
Carlin, 800-919-3776. Get to some of the tweets in just a few moments on Twitter at Chris Carlin. You can also follow on Instagram, that guy Carlin. And the video stream is up and running at 98.7 ESPN's Twitter handle and at ESPN New York's Facebook page. I was talking for a few minutes before about the things that are fixable and the things that are not. Ultimately, right now, the thing that's immediately fixable in my mind is the hitting. And it's not completely changing everybody's approach. It's just a patience and a confidence that you have to swing the bat with. And we've seen teams break out of it relatively easily. Like, I look at that, and overall, even though I think the team is not constructed well, and they clearly don't put the ball in play enough, I think that when you understand what they're capable of, even with that being the case, it's more likely than not that they're going to bust out of that. The pitching, I can't say that same thing. I have been down on Corey Kluber since they signed him. It was a bad signing. And that was a bad use of $11 million in resources. Terrible use of $11 million in resources when you frankly could have kicked a couple of more million and brought Tanaka back, and at the very least, you would have known what you were getting. I don't think the defense is getting fixed anytime soon. If you're a bad defensive team, you're a bad defensive team. The mental errors are what kills me. Kill me, I should say. You look at what Clint Frazier's doing yesterday, going back to catch the ball on the warning track, thinking you have a chance to throw somebody out at home on a sac fly, and then, and then not realizing it until halfway through the throw and then throwing it to nobody on the infield so a runner moves up to second. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. Pitching can get, I don't know if I want to say it can get fixed, but, is Corey Kluber good enough to figure out how to get people out with what he has now? I think that's the aspect of this that we don't look at enough. Kluber is nowhere near what he used to be. And the Yankees knew that when they signed him. But they were comfortable with what they expected to be getting. They haven't gotten that either. What is imperative now that Kluber, as one of the dominant pitchers a few years ago in the league, as a two-time Cy Young Award winner, if he's going to continue to pitch, he now has to figure out how to get people out with a lot less stuff than he used to have. He can. I don't know that that's something that you can do consistently without at least a half a season of pitching through troubles and trying to work through that. This guy hasn't pitched enough the last few years. This was really the signing that, to me, was confounding. I never understood it. And you want to say they made a nice trade for Tyon? He's still a young pitcher. Okay, we'll see. Hopefully that's the case. Another guy that didn't pitch for 2 years. But he's at least still young. Kluber, 34. This ain't getting better easily. Steve in Pearl River is on 98.7 ESPN. Esteban, ¿qué pasa?
Thanks for the segue, Chris, because that's what I told the call screener. No one's talking about Tanaka.
Look at that.
On the field.
What a little coinky dink that is that you bring up Tanaka right after I talked about him. What do you got?
Thank you. So, no one never, but ask Flaherty what he meant in the clubhouse, okay, Tanaka. Because that guy, they decided that I guess Kluber and the guy from Pittsburgh,
Jameson Tyon, yeah.
Yes, okay. That would be how they substituted for Tanaka. And Tanaka made it very clear to everyone. There's a guy who put all his cards on the table. He said, it's Yankees or bust. I'm either playing for the New York Yankees. He wanted to be here. I'm either playing for the New York Yankees or I'm going back to Japan. And they called his bluff. He went back to Japan. Good for him. Good for him. He at least had some, stuff with his guns and has some character. All right. But these other things, look, and you could also ask Larry, I'm curious, because what my understanding is that the Yankees, and I call it the firm, all right, because Brian Cashman is not doing these moves without Hal Steinbrenner's blessing, ultimately. He's not going out. He's not coming back to Hal Steinbrenner and saying, oh, by the way, I just traded to Stanton. He's not going to Hal Steinbrenner and saying, oh, by the way, we're not going to give Tanaka the money. We're going to bring in these guys. No, it's the firm, okay? It's the firm.
No, but look,
right?
When you've been there for 20-some years, you have the trust of ownership. So if you recommend doing it, chances are they're going to do it, Steve. Thanks for the call. They're not going to just turn you aside when you have been there as long as you have. The problem is he's been there as long as he has. Sometimes it's just time. Isn't it possible that it's just time? I have no doubt that Brian Cashman will be a GM somewhere else in the blink of an eye. No question. That doesn't mean it's wrong to move on. That doesn't mean that. It may be just time being up here. The thing that really troubles me the most is that there has been a major shift in philosophy with the Yankees. It has gone from title or bust to let's make the postseason and we'll see what happens. Because the postseason now is a crapshoot. That's not what the Yankee way is supposed to be. And it's clear, and they virtually have admitted as much, that is now the mentality. Assemble a team that's going to win 90 to 100 to 110 games, and then hope. And then hope. It's funny, we talk about playing with a lack of urgency. And we used to complain about George all the time. But when George came out and said something, the Yankees played with an urgency. When George came out at the end of 1995 and said, there's going to be big changes around here, and 96 happened, and they brought in Torrey, and they've done all the things that they did, the Yankees played with an urgency. Yes, there was a shift in personnel, the likes of Jeter and Bernie Williams and Pettit. Yes, all true. But there are people that believe that the best way to get the best out of somebody is to instill a fear. Sometimes that's true. Nowadays, that's not going to happen as much, and Hal is not that guy. Hal is not that guy. Here's the problem. And Jarv, I think, really sums it up beautifully with his comment over on the video stream on 98.7's Twitter handle and on ESPN New York's Facebook page. teams with a $200 million plus payroll should not be trying to catch lightning in a bottle for a second and third starter. Absolutely not. That's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. And it should not be the way they're going about it. And when that's the case, which it is, this is what happens. I'm very excited to fire this off. It is our friend Richard who is back with us, and I'm excited that he has. We were a bit concerned because we hadn't heard from Richard in a bit. And Richard, first of all, my deepest condolences on the passing of your mother. I heard about that over the weekend, and we've been thinking about it.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very, very painful, but thank you very much.
I can
We
imagine.
did okay. Not 94 and a half, so we did okay.
Okay.
But it's still painful. Okay.
Of course.
As far as the Yankees, not only shouldn't the Yankees be shop a $200 million payroll, they've got a $1/3 of $1 billion pitcher on their starting staff. 1/3 of $1 billion. Okay, and the 90 wins. They didn't win 90-95. They didn't prorate to 90-95 last year. They would have won 86 games, 87 with that record.
Well, but you know what I mean.
And this year, far from that. Okay, you go back 2004 to this year. That's 18 years. 18 years they've been in the World Series once. They've represented the American League one time. You throw out Detroit and you throw out Baltimore, you're competing against 12 teams in the American League, and you've only been there once out of 18. That's way below average.
Agreed.
Now, I'm a big believer in karma. Karma is like the street vernacular is what goes around comes around. In November of 2017, Joe Girardi led the Yankees to within one game of beating the Astros and going to the World Series. And, of course, no good deed goes unpunished, and he got fired. In November of 2017, a reporter asked Hal Steinbrenner if Joe got us to the World Series, into the World Series, would he still have been fired? And do you know what Hal Steinbrenner said? Yes. That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. This is all the curse of Hal Steinbrenner. You got to get rid of Cashman.
Richard, you bring up an interesting point, and thanks for the call. We've been thinking about you, as I said. You bring up an interesting point that it was absurd for that to be the case. But the Yankees were looking for somebody with a softer touch. That was always clear when they got rid of Joe Girardi. They were looking for somebody that related to players a little bit better. They were looking for somebody that would be right for Gary Sanchez. Well, nobody's really been right for Gary Sanchez. We can't really blame Joe Girardi for Gary Sanchez anymore, can we? We can't. How about we start blaming Gary Sanchez for Gary Sanchez? And one other little tidbit. You know the injury to Gary Sanchez on Saturday? How it happened? His right hand, his throwing hand, was out in front. He caught a foul tip on his hand out in front instead of behind or on the side. Now, I talked to some people over the weekend. I don't know, and neither did they, if like the new school catchers are being taught to have their hand out in front in some ways by the Yankees or whoever. But if they're not, that's just not paying attention to detail in the moment. And that was a completely avoidable injury. 800-919-3776. So what is the biggest problem and what is eminently fixable? We ask John Flaherty of the Yes Network. That coming up in moments.
It's Carlin.
This guy sucks.
On 98.7 ESPN.
Do you need a new car?
You're down. All right.
A division of Hudson
So
Hyundai. Bad
you're going to
credit,
play
no
it
credit,
from
they can
there,
help.
right?
Call 800
And
4715. It's easy to apply right over the phone. 800 479 4715. Even if it's your first time buying a car, call 800 479 4715. And Tier 1 customers can drive a new Hyundai today with just $68 down. Call 800 479 4715. Like a new Hyundai Tucson.
All right, stream, friends. We'll get to DeGrom a little bit later.
Even a new Hyundai Palisade with only $68 down. Call now, 800-479-4715. And all new Hyundais come with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Call Credit Solutions for a pre-approval
right.
at 800-479-4715. That's 800-479-4715 or HudsonHyundai.com. Payments will vary.
We all know it's about pitching. They have one great pitcher for the most part. Let's say average after him. I mean, Chris, it's being kind to say average after him right now. It honestly is. I don't think it's Boone's fault, but a change of manager to Buck Showalter would improve results. These players need to fear someone and be punished for poor fundamentals. I don't know if Buck's going to manage again. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, I'll tell you that. I would not be against it.
Right from the start, we've always been on the go.
Let's see here.
And once we got going, we never slowed down. So for the past 100 years at Pep Boys, we've kept our promise to keep you moving. And we plan on keeping it for at least 100 more. Pep Boys, we go further to help you go farther. Now through April 30th at Pep Boys, get free installation instantly when you buy 4 Cali Edge AS tires. Restrictions apply. See store or pepboys.com for details.
Hey, it's Michael K. I want to tell you about my friends at Precision Painting Plus, who recently power washed and painted the exterior of my home. They did a fantastic job from start to finish. When we started, they had a designer come to my home to work with my wife to select the right colors and finishes. Then they had a project manager on site to make the process stress-free and easy. They use Benjamin Moore, the market leader in paint, so it not only looks good, but it lasts. Precision Painting Plus really understands their customers. Painting is a reflection of you and your home. That's why they're focused on realizing your vision and being respectful of your time and your budget. Precision Painting Plus is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and has thousands of 5-star reviews just like mine. They also offer a 2-year warranty and interest-free financing. Schedule your free estimate today online at www.precisionpaintingplus.com or by phone at 866-211-9717.
Go through some emails, check your calendar, see that you have a 45-minute break in the day between meetings, realize this is your moment. So you drive right to McDonald's to pick up something extra delicious ASAP. There's a meal for every moment. McDonald's.
Enjoy one of our $3 bundles, like a burger, 6-piece chicken McNuggets, or McChicken, each paired with small fries, only at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary.
Stay up all night because no one says you can't. Resorts World Catskills is open 24 hours. Enjoy live blackjack, roulette, baccarat, and craps, or place your bets on your favorite teams at Sportsbook 360. End the night in your luxurious all-suite hotel room. Resorts World Casinos. We are New York. Resorts World Catskills, only 90 minutes from New York City. So close. Gambling problem? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Must be 21 or over to gamble.
Napa know-how. Get a 5-quart jug of Napa full synthetic motor oil and a platinum filter for just $26.48. They're like the only couple you don't mind inviting over. They help you with your car, they save you money, and they never display their affection publicly. That's Napa full synthetic.
Sorry, guys, I'm just getting this situated.
Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how. Napa know-how. General States pricing. Sales prices not include applicable state, local taxes, or recycling fees. Offer ends 4/30/21.
Hey, we get it. You don't want to be hearing a Progressive commercial right now, so let us tell you something you do want to hear. No one is funnier than you. People laugh just thinking about the things you've said. I'm laughing at one of them right now. Coworkers repeat your jokes at the office, but they're never as good as when you tell them, and shame on them for trying. There, don't you feel better? You'll also feel better knowing you could save when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Although I'm sure you'd have a funnier way to say that. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
Flaherty of the Yes Network. Yankees opening up a 2-game series against the Braves tomorrow. Yes, pregame at 6:30 and the game at 7. Of course, postgame right after. Bob Lorenz, Jack Curry, Buck Showalter this week as well, and David Cohn in the booth. Looking forward to it.
11 minutes here.
First question, when you look at this right now, what's the biggest concern that you have?
Well, Chris, I think obviously offensively, not really grinding out at bats and the swings and misses, and everybody talks about the ground balls. That's going to be probably the number one culprit to why they've gotten off to a slow start. But, you got to point to the rotation and a couple of guys who haven't pitched in a long time, and, in Tyone and Kluber, and they haven't been great. And Herman, when he was here, he wasn't good. So, it's been a collective effort, and then defensively, they haven't looked great either. So it's basically Garrett Cole, Jordan Montgomery, and the bullpen has been good. So it's just a collective thing right now that as a club, they expected to get off to a good start. You start off 5 and 10, you have trouble swinging the bats 1 through 9, and you start looking around, and you have to answer a lot of questions. And until this turns around, those questions are still going to be asked.
John, let's tackle them one at a time. First of all, over the weekend, there were times where a lot of the big boys seemed like they were getting some pretty good pitches to hit, but right now they just seem to be missing them. When you're at the plate, what's going on when you are just missing pitches that end up getting fouled back when maybe they should end up, across the street in McCombs Dam?
Yeah, it could be a couple of different things, Chris. Timing obviously is one of them. Mechanically, maybe you're drifting to your front side. That causes you to kind of be a little bit late and you're working underneath. But, the mental part of hitting is what I look at when I see some of these swings and they foul balls off that they should be hitting. You can look at body language right away, and the shoulders sag, the head goes down. Because they know that that's the one pitch that they could have done some damage with. And, obviously you might get another mistake during that at bat, but it as a hitter when you foul it straight back and you're like, okay, now I really got to battle because it's going to get tough from here. So it could be a bunch of things mechanically or timing-wise that cause it, but I think what the end result is the mind games that you start playing when you're in that batter's box, knowing you had a mistake and knowing you missed it, and knowing that things are probably going to get tougher the rest of the at-bat.
And does it really start to spiral when you see it happening to the group as a whole?
Well, what it does, Chris, is if, you have 4 or 5 guys who are rolling and they're kind of carrying the club offensively, and you're going through a tough time, you can kind of say, okay, I'm going to have some time here to figure it out. And hopefully I don't cost this club in some big spots. But as a collective lineup, when it's 1 through 9, what happens is you start putting a ton of pressure on being the guy, right? And Aaron Judge wants to be the guy. Stanton is getting paid to be the guy. And then all of a sudden you're trying to do a little bit too much because everybody else is scuffling. And it just starts snowballing as a group. And like I said, you have to answer questions you don't want to answer. Why aren't you hitting with runners in scoring position? Why isn't this lineup putting up 5, 6, 7 runs a game? It just becomes a lot of distractions and becomes a headline that you have to deal with. So the only way it gets better, and I said this on the show the other night, is to kind of dig in there with your spikes, forget about the mechanics and then the timing. You just got to compete. You got to kind of find a way to beat that guy on that pitch or that at bat, and then eventually things will turn around. And you don't have to answer these questions anymore.
John Flaherty with us from the Yes Network, of course. Is there one guy that you look at and say, wow, he's really out of it right now?
Well, Aaron Hicks is, surprising to me. Right-handed, he looks good, but left-handed, the swing is definitely off. But not only that, just the not seeing as many pitches as we're used to him seeing, and working walks and being that guy that has the high on-base percentage. And, Clint Frazier is a young hitter that, has this great opportunity. And, even when he was getting hits at the beginning of the year, he didn't look all that good, but he was getting some cheap hits. And now all of a sudden he looks like he's a little bit lost. And I wonder, Chris, what's going through his mind, right? You know that you knew you were going to be the starting left fielder. Now we're 2 weeks into it, and Brett Gardner's getting some more playing time. And I mentioned it before, the mental part of this game and the mental part of hitting is just as important as the mechanics and the physical part. So Clint Frazier needs to get a couple of hits, a couple of good at-bats to get back on track.
John, let's go to the rotation. When you look at Kluber and you look at Taillon, do they just to you look like two guys who haven't pitched a whole lot, or do they look to you like guys that you should be really concerned about?
Yeah, I wouldn't say really concerned, Chris, but let's take them separately. I think Kluber, when I watch him, you can tell that his stuff is not quite what we remembered when it was and back in the heyday. And that's, totally understandable. He really hasn't pitched in 2 years. So, you would expect it to take a little bit of time to come back. But I think the velocity's down a little bit. And with that, the sharpness of the cutter and the slider and the two-seamer, everything else just drops a little bit. So, I look at his stuff and say it's clearly taken a step back. But again, that's understandable. So you look forward to him getting better. Taillon, I thought his first start looked really good. And was that the adrenaline of missing all of this time? Your first start as a New York Yankee, he throws a fastball that's mid-90s, but it seems to play a lot higher than that. So I was encouraged by the first one. The second one wasn't great. Are you going to overreact to one not being that? There's a lot there that I think we saw in spring training that you like, that you're going to give Taillon a little bit of a pass. But clearly, when they get into the grind of a season, a grind of pitching every fifth or sixth day, that's when it's all going to come out, because the adrenaline isn't there anymore. It's a grind, and we'll see if the stuff gets better or if it takes a step backward.
Yeah, John, from the outsider, the one area where it looks like it is spiraling a little bit is defensively, because it doesn't so much look like physical mistakes as it looks like mental mistakes, like we saw yesterday with, Hicks overrunning a ball a little bit, and, Clint Frazier looking like he was making a decision in the moment to turn and throw it to the infield, was really throwing it to nobody. Defensively, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think we all understood that this probably, coming in wasn't going to be an outstanding defensive team. But, when you start making some mistakes and then you start thinking about it, again, back to the mental part of it. But, I watch Clint, and sometimes he's a little mechanical and thinking about plays instead of just reacting and letting them happen. We talk about Hicks up at the plate. He's a really good center fielder that's making some mistakes. And it's just when it rains, it pours, Chris. I mean, you could pile on the defense. Jay Bruce didn't look great at first, but didn't look terrible. But when he didn't swing the bat, you got to move LeMahieu over. And now Odor's at second base, and he's not a great defensive second baseman. We know that Glaber's had some issues at the beginning of the year. He seems like he's cleaned them up, so that's the good news. But we could talk about defense. We could talk about base running. They've been making mistakes. I mean, this is an all-around collective effort that has led to a 5-10 start.
Okay. John Flaherty, Yes Network with us. That leads us to the bigger question here, John. It's 15 games. So where do you look at this right now? Is it just, hey, it's a bad stretch, they're going to snap out of it, we know what they are, or are there things that you look at that you worry about being unfixable?
Well, the Kluber and Taillon that we just talked about, if their stuff doesn't get better, then, you're going to have to, make some changes, or there'll be some concerns. But, Chris, I go back to playing for Joe Torre for 3 years, and I'll never forget one of his team meetings when we got off to a terrible start. I think it was in 2005. And, he basically walked in the clubhouse after a game and said, I defend you guys to the media every day. I tell them that I believe in you, and I do believe in you. But now it's gotten to the point where it's not about talking anymore. You got to show me. You got to go out there and show me that you guys are a good team, a championship caliber team. And then, hopefully we get moving. And we did that year in 2005. But, I think it's kind of gotten to that point here, Chris, where, we hear a lot of, we know we're a good team. We know it's early. But now it's getting to the point you got to go out there and show it. And not only to the organization and the Yankee fans, but to each other in that clubhouse, because they know or they believe they have a good team. But you got to start seeing it on a consistent basis, so that the words don't sound as shallow as they have sounded.
I was a little surprised that Aaron did it Friday night as opposed to maybe waiting right before he had Garrett Cole on the mound to kind of go off. That's usually the blueprint, right? Go off on the team when you have your best pitcher and one of the best in baseball on the mound the next day. Absolutely.
And then you throw on top of that last now. The best pitcher for the Rays was out on the mound, so you expected that to be a tough matchup for the Yankees. And I actually thought in the first couple innings against Glasnow, the Yankees kind of got to that competitive at bat mentality again that we're so used to seeing, and then kind of got away from it the middle to the end of the game. So you're right. Aaron Boone is not a guy who raises his voice very often. He did after Friday night's game. And unfortunately for the club, it didn't result in a win in either of the last two games of the series.
Okay, so if you're going to be an optimist about this, what are the couple of things that you're looking for this week, John, as they're trying to get back on the beam?
Well, I think, offensively, like I've just been talking about, the at-bats just have to have more, they have to just be more competitive. And, at-bats don't have to end up in base hit or RBI base hit.
1 minute.
The digging in and kind of grinding it every at-bat, every day.
1 minute, Chris. You got it?
And, Chris, this isn't going to be something that, they go out there Tuesday night or tomorrow night against the Braves and, they throw out 5 or 6 runs and they win a ball game. You have to see it every day. You have to see the personality of this ball club that when they walk out on the field, you realize they're the New York Yankees, and it hasn't happened. They don't have that swagger right now, and understandably so. But if you get in that
30.
1 through 9 and you find a way to wear down some pitching staffs, all of a sudden that confidence comes back.
John, awesome insight. Appreciate it as always. You can always catch him on the pre and post game on Yes in the broadcast booth as well. John Flaherty, thanks again, man.
You got it, Chris. Talk to you soon.
Yankees pregame tomorrow night, 6:30. Yankees pregame tomorrow night, 6:30. Bob Lorenz, Jack Curry, and Buck
5
season debut. Yankees and the Braves. Yeah. I don't come out of it feeling a whole lot better. And certainly the pitching, as I would have thought, is the issue here. You don't know that rotation is going to be able to pick up right away. But who is definitively not to blame? We hit that in moments. Carlin, 800-919-3776.
Your coverage coming up at 6:30. It's all about you. What was that?
On 98.7 ESPN.
At Eddie Sings.
You're down.
Sorry, I had my
Enrich and found his
had the what do you call it now?
With the light.
Or down.
The fader.
Oh, about all the tartar sauce.
Good, man. I knew you were there. I just
Yeah.
I thought your headphones were off or something.
Want you? I need you.
At Eddie Sings from Chicago, Illinois on Tuesday, March 3rd. Love that Cajun flounder fish sandwich from Popeyes. Get our delicious new Cajun flounder sandwich today. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants.
This spring, from the creators of New York Lottery Scratch-Off games, comes a movie-themed ticket called $1 Million Premiere, which explains why I'm talking like this. Play today for a chance to win $1 million. Oh, and did I mention non-winning tickets get a surprise sequel? Enter the second chance promotion at NYLPremiere.com.
Interesting point. Because if I were Boone, that's what I would get after. The base running and the outfield defensive mistakes that they've made are just painful. Absolutely painful.
Take advantage of limited time offers and incentives and
What else we
spring
got?
forward into the Mercedes-Benz of your dreams. Did you know it's National Car Care Month?
I don't think Buck is, Chris brings up Buck. I don't think that's going to happen.
Stop in, shop online, or schedule service at mbwhiteplains.com.
Let's see.
A proud member of the Pepe Auto Group, the name you've trusted since
Al, is beer money coming back on TV?
At Boar's Head, we stop at
I don't think so, brother. It was a long time ago. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's basically here, we're going to pay you. Take this microphone, go into the bar, give away some money, ask some questions, and if they get it wrong, make them look stupid. And you can have a couple of beers along the way. Sold. That's why, like, with Aaron Rodgers doing the Jeopardy and all that, like, game show, that is the dream job. Like, everybody's got their complaints about any job. Like, I'm in a dream job, and that doesn't escape me. I don't really have any complaints. But game show host? That's one that I might bolt for. That's... Woo! I loved doing beer money. I absolutely loved doing Beat the Booth. a couple of times I did that on SNY. It was a blast.
Finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from
Aaron
far
Rodgers
away.
was okay on Jeopardy. I didn't think he was. Listen, here's what you love about it. You knew the guy took it seriously. He obviously got very prepared for it.
And experienced staff at over 250 local branches. Call
Yeah, Chris, I understand. This is not a bad gig I got.
Granger.
Don't get me wrong.
Who get it done.
I'm sitting in my office talking sports.
Event is going on now, so join us today.
Yeah, that's all right.
There's no debate. There's only one. Jeep. Well-qualified returning FCA lessees get a low-mileage lease on the 2021
That does not
Jeep
escape me ever.
4x4 for $109 a month for 24 months with $4,299 due at signing. Tax, title, license.
Do you like my Brian Cashman picture?
Call 1-888-925-JEEP for details. Requires dealer contribution and lease through Ally Financial. Current lease must end by 2/28/22. Extra charge for miles over 20,000. Residency restrictions apply. Take delivery by 3/1/21.
Listen, man, Chris, it's something you want to do someday. It's something you can do now. You can set this up and broadcast on YouTube and build something. Anybody can do it right now. The way it's set up. You don't need a radio station to do it. Look at this. I got this for the last 2 weeks. Leave it alone. That's just a Band-Aid. What am I doing there? All right, 30 seconds.
70 for additional terms and conditions.
The Garden is returning to life. That's right, fans are back, and now you can get reunited with Rangers hockey in the world's most famous arena. Get tickets at NewYorkrangers.com/TIX.
The Michael K. Show on 98.7 ESPN is brought to you by Geico. The real value in car insurance isn't just how much you save, it's also the service you get. Good thing Geico's been perfecting both for over 75 years.
Two gentlemen have been exceptionally patient, and we have to get to them. My apologies, gentlemen. We're going to start with Mike in Jersey City and get to Simon shortly thereafter. Mike, thanks for hanging in so long. What's going on? I'm sorry you had to wait that long.
No, it's all right. Thanks, Carlin. You're the man. Big fan.
I appreciate that.
I couldn't agree with more with everything you said, this entire show and most of the callers. And I want to talk about a lot of things, but I'm not, including Hicks being the 3-hitter and still being in the lineup and how the Yankees can't beat the Rays. Just those two things are annoying. But can we talk about Gleyber Torres for a second? What happened to him? Because he was a top 5 prospect, and he was supposed to carry us.
I want you to think about what happened. Think about what happened 2 years ago. I mean, you had a massive amount of injuries. And there were 2 guys who carried the Yankees in 2019. And that was Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu. Yep. And, I mean, he went 38-90 that year and had an OPS close to 900. I mean, he looked like he was really on his way. And last year he was out of shape and didn't get going when he came back from the second, after the stoppage in spring training. He was out of shape when he got back. He didn't make up for it until 50 games into the 60-game season. And in this year, I wish I could explain what the heck's going on, but I have no idea because he's been awful.
He's our young superstar. He's hyped up
Like I sat there last year at the beginning of the season and thought, if I'm building around anybody long term, I'm building around Gleyber Torres, not Aaron Judge.
Yeah, he's supposed to be our rock. And yeah, Judge is just very injury prone, so I agree. I mean, Gleyber was supposed to be our rock that we build around.
Mike, I appreciate it. Thanks for checking in. And I'm hoping that I'm not giving up on Gleyber yet, but boy, it's got to come around here soon. Simon in New Haven also been patient. Simon, what's up, brother? How are you?
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. I wanted to talk about, there's some things that need to be fixed. First of all, I agree with you. Hicks is not a number 3 hitter. I'm sorry. I mean, all we've been hearing the whole year is that Judge and Stanton have to back to back, right? So That's what I would do. Secondly, I think we got to get rid of Brian Cashman. I mean, let's face it, the guy does not know how to do a good job scouting. Particularly with this Jay Bruce thing. I mean, if Jay Bruce knew he was going to retire, then why does Cashman sign him in the first place? I mean, I guess.
Well, he didn't. Cashman didn't know Jay Bruce was thinking about retiring. If he did, he wouldn't have signed him.
And then this thing with the lineup, we have got to get rid. I'm sorry, we have got to get rid of these hitting coaches and Brett Gardner. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't buy it on the hitting coaches, Simon. I always think when it's the hitting coach in particular, that's overplayed. I don't ever buy that the hitting coach is the guy responsible for Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge not hitting. When it comes to Cashman, look, Gardner, Simon, you're preaching to the choir on Gardner, and thanks for the call, because when you brought Gardner back, you took away the confidence that Clint Frazier would have had. And I'm not saying that Frazier's not got to be a big boy and go back and claim his spot. That's what he's got to go do. But bringing Gardner back from that standpoint was a mistake. If you were bringing him back for leadership, I get it, but still, it hurt Frazier. Who's not to blame? We hit that next. Open lines, 800-919-3776.
You're down.